Formally, our closing process was files dropped into a closing queue to be reviewed by an individual person, which was our closing specialist. We determined that that was not the most efficient way to look at files and process files and get them through and into the closing department. So consequently, we've changed the process, and we've added basically an additional queue or view to our process. We now have what we refer to as the review view, wherein all files will drop into that view based on a number of parameters, and that is a series of approximately 7 documents that are required in order to have that view be populated with that particular file. We continue to have the clear to close queue, which is the queue that files that are cleared move directly into upon their clear to close. The great thing about the new review queue is this: if all of your documents are in early, namely title, homeowner's insurance, closing protection letter, wire instructions, if it's a purchase, your purchase and sales agreement, if it's a refi, your payoff letter, and your settlement agent contact, if those documents are in early, they will drop into what we now have is the review queue. And that is available for all of the closers, which we have 6 currently in our department, to choose from and begin the process of early review. The beauty of that is that a closer is in a non-pressured sort of situation wherein the closing is imminent, within a day or two, has the ability to review the documents carefully, reach out to the attorney, establish a relationship as the closer with the loan officer or with the account executive to work through the file to make sure that it's clean and ready when the file is actually cleared to close. Once a closer selects a file from the review queue, she initially sends out an introductory email explaining that she is the closer assigned to the file, that she will be conducting a review of the file and will be in contact with the appropriate parties to reach out for any revisions that are necessary. Namely, the individuals on that email will be a loan officer, the settlement agent or attorney. In the cases of where branches might have their own processors, we would include a processor on that. We might also include the AE associated with the file, but they all get the email, the initial email introducing the closer to them, and then a follow-up email once she's performed her review of all the documents, requesting whatever necessary revision she needs. There are a number of items that are required to move the file into the review queue. The first of the required documents is the title commitment. The commitment cannot be dated any later than 60 days from the date of the closing. Must include all borrowers' names, must include the correct property address, must include the correct mortgagee clause. And the mortgagee clause depends on the loan type, and your processor can provide you with the accurate mortgagee clause. Must have the specific and correct loan amount, must have attached to it a legal description as a Schedule A or a Schedule C. You must provide a 12-month chain of title. In the case of a purchase, we require a copy of the deed into the current owner, meaning the seller of the property. We will be checking for encumbrances and liens on title, and will require that the title reference those, and that if there are liens and encumbrances, that the HUD reflects the payoffs of those liens and encumbrances, as it is a requirement that Norcom be provided with clean title at the time of the transaction. In the case of refis, closers will be matching, along with underwriters, liens on title with payoffs on the HUD. In the case of a Massachusetts purchase, the additional requirement is Title V if the property has a private sewer. The end. Third document is the homeowner's insurance. homeowners insurance coverage, the dwelling coverage on the homeowners insurance must be at least in the amount of the mortgage, or recite 100% replacement cost coverage, or recite a dollar amount or a percentage amount which will increase the coverage to equal the amount of the mortgage. The premium amount of the homeowners insurance must be recited on the policy and reference whether or not it's paid or due at closing. The policy must recite an effective date commencing from the closing date for an annual term. The address, the correct address must be on the policy, and the mortgagee clause. Again, you can get that information depending on the type of the loan from your processor. If your property is a condo, we require master condo insurance that also recites the name of our borrower and the unit number. The policy must recite alls in or walls in. The reference to betterments and improvements is not acceptable. Again, the policy must recite alls in or walls in. If the master condo policy does not recite alls in or walls in, we require that the borrower obtain an HO6 policy with coverage that can be no less than 20% of the loan amount. With regard to refis, the homeowner's insurance requirement is that the renewal date must be beyond 60 days from the closing date, more than 60 days from the closing date. If not, we are required to collect the renewal premium at the closing table. Flood coverage, maximum amount of flood coverage is $250,000 if a property is in a flood zone. The flood insurance policy must recite the flood zone off of the flood cert that's associated with the property. Max deductible on a single family residence for flood insurance is $5,000, and max on a condo is $25,000. And these documents will probably come in bulk from your settlement agent or your attorney. Is an errors and omissions policy. The policy must be effective at the time of the closing and must have a minimum amount of coverage of $1 million. Obviously must recite the name of the settlement agent. The policy must be in the name of the settlement agent that's conducting the closing. The other document that comes with your title is your closing protection letter. That is also a requirement. It is usually issued in tandem with the title commitment from the title insurance company, but that is also a required document. Next is the preliminary HUD. That needs to be submitted with your title documents again from your settlement agent, and it must include their settlement fees so that we can mirror those fees at the time of, and if necessary, if we have to redisclose based on earlier disclosed settlement fees. Finally, from the title agent, wire instructions, obviously a necessary requirement. And again, the wire instructions must also be in the name of the title insurance company. We are required to only wire funds to those settlement agents who are insuring our title. So all of those documents must match. If you are conducting a purchase transaction, the next required document that's required to move the file into the review queue is a purchase and sales agreement. If you're conducting a refi, the required document is a payoff letter. And lastly, we need contact information from your settlement agent, namely their name, their phone number, and most importantly, an email address to make contact with that individual. So how does this benefit you, the loan officer, your borrower? What it does is make for a smoother transition to closing. By having the documents in early, by allowing a closer to assign herself to the file so that she can review the file and make contact with your loan officer and your settlement agent, they are establishing a relationship early in the process. and making it a smoother transition and a smoother process ultimately for the customer. A couple of examples that I can give you are, we had a file that had a very difficult title scenario. There was break in the chain of title. We had to procure documents to clear title and to clean it up. Had that file not been reviewed early, the closing would have definitely been delayed, because we had to reach out to former attorneys to create documents that had to be recorded on the land records to cure the chain of title. And again, had that file dropped immediately into a clear to close queue with a suspected or a estimated closing date of 2 or 3 days out, it would have not happened. This was a process that involved many people, many departments, underwriting and compliance and closing, in order to cure it and get it in a position where it could close. But the only way that we could accomplish that and still meet the expected closing date was the fact that the documents were in early. None of that could be accomplished without our wonderful closing team. Within our team, we have upwards of 30 plus years of experience in the mortgage industry in one capacity or another. They are always willing to go above and beyond to try to accommodate, particularly and most importantly, the borrower, to get the file closed and to keep everybody happy and try to as best they can see to it that the experience is a positive one, and one that can go smoothly. But ultimately the best way to do that is to get the documents in early.